For me, I guess I always just wanted to find out what my roots were, who I was, where did I come from. For the first 18 years of my life, I didn't self-identify as Indigenous because I was ashamed to.
The placements were 33 different placements. That has to do with foster care, temporary homes, youth assessment centers, and group homes.
I said, you know what, Irene? I said, we don't even know each other. Yeah. We used to know each other when we were kids.
It's something that I don't wish upon anybody else to have to go through what I went through, because there was a lot of trauma. In my foster homes, I thought I was the only one. I applied for my child welfare records through the Alberta government. I have 9 other siblings, and we were all removed, all of us, and we were placed all in different, separate foster homes.
I was adopted when I was 2 weeks old, and so I was adopted into a Dutch family. I was raised in a family that was caring and loving, and I think that they did the best that they could.
The worst part for me was my brother, my sisters, we were all separated. Growing up, I had absolutely no Aboriginal ties. In fact, I was made fun of for being Aboriginal in an all-white school.
They made me feel as if I wasn't gonna amount to anything. And that's how I felt, and I feel to this day. I don't feel like I have any self-esteem sometimes.
On May 28, 2018, the Premier of Alberta, Rachel Notley, gave an apology to the 60's scoop survivors in the Legislative Assembly.
The 60's scoop is the colloquial name for the government practices perpetuated in Alberta and across Canada from the 1950s to the 1980s. Indigenous children were taken from their birth families, from their communities, put in non-Indigenous homes without meaningful steps, in some cases without any steps at all, to preserve their culture, their identity, and most importantly, their relationship with their community, and even most importantly, with their family.
The legacy of the Indian residential school didn't end with the closure of the schools. In 1951, responsibility for child welfare was allocated from the federal government to the provinces.
Even though the residential schools are a thing of the past, the legacy kind of lives on through foster care.
The reality is typically the majority of decision makers are non-Indigenous. So they're not necessarily bringing that cultural knowledge, that local knowledge, to their assessment of the best interests of the child.
Those kids didn't come into care because somebody, one day made a bad decision. It's because there were systemic problems with the way the government was interacting with the Indigenous community.
The scars of this tragedy still linger, some as fresh as they were a generation ago. Many of you told us you still experience family dysfunction and difficult relationships as a result of what was done to you.
That family bond, sense of belonging, all that stuff, that was a lot of the things that you were missing growing up. And I wasted a lot of time being on the wrong side of the law, just because I didn't care anymore.
There was a lot of losses that we experienced, loss of language, loss of culture, loss of identity, loss of family. And one thing that was really a big thing amongst us is abandonment. When the former premier in the province of Manitoba issued an apology to the survivors in Manitoba, I watched that apology, very emotional day for me. I was in Alberta, and I felt that if Manitoba can do that, then so can Alberta. So I started, with encouragement from my wife, I started to write a lot of letters to the Alberta government, talking about reconciliation, talking about 60's Scoop. We wanted that process to be driven by survivors. And I know that the Alberta government, when we first went and met with them, they wanted to have a government-to-government relationship. They wanted, at first they didn't want to really deal with us. They wanted to deal with the Indigenous leadership. But we told the government of Alberta that this process needs to be driven by survivors. We're the leaders.
We sat down and had a fulsome circle around this conversation. And there are moments where we were unhappy with each other. There are moments when we felt good about where we were going, and moments where we didn't know what to do. But somehow, because we stayed in the circle and kept talking about it, even after somebody was upset, we stayed and we went back around the circle and back around the circle. We got to a place where we understood that a few things needed to happen. And that meant that the survivors and the government had to form a partnership. And that's what we did. That was the original piece of work that we put together.
Adam Northpagan, along with other 60's Scoop survivors, created what is known as the 60's Scoop Indigenous Society of Alberta, a self-determining society that would work hard to hear and listen to the stories of other survivors to help inform this important apology.
The stories you, the survivors, shared with us are heartbreaking. These stories transcend generations. Children, kids, babies, toddlers, teens, ripped from your families. Parents, unable to see through the tears as they took your children away from you. Grandparents, forced aside as your families were destroyed. And we also heard clearly that some of those foster homes were also not safe. Many of you faced terrible abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental and emotional abuse, forced labor, starvation, and neglect. Cultures shamed, ignored, and forgotten by force. A proud way of life taken away. The decisions that led to that personal trauma, many of those decisions, Mr. Speaker, were made right here on this floor in this chamber.
I was talking to her and my sister last night, and I said, where is all this anger coming from? And you guys didn't do anything to me. And that's when we started talking about our experience in the foster home. Like, I'm trying to learn my language, Cree, and I try to speak it as much as I can. And Irene shocked me last night, and she says, "What are you trying to do? Trying to be Indian, right? Hey."
Yeah, and I said, what the heck am I saying? I'm a native too, so what am I talking about? And it's the white society that made me feel like that.
I was 15, and I took off, and I went and found my mom and my brother. That's where I wanted to be at that time. Unfortunately, my mom wasn't stable at the time. She had no place to live, so it resulted in us being homeless as well too, right? So homeless at a young age, trying to find our way, and started hanging around with the street gangs.
I left my last foster home. I went home to my own community, and that was culture shock like you could not imagine. And it led me down a path of probably about a good 10, 15 years of heavy drinking that I did as a coping mechanism to try and fit in and to mask all that hurt and all that trauma. And it led me to the streets in Vancouver. I ended up on East Hastings. I became a father. My two oldest daughters, they got removed because of my own drinking, and they became part of the BC child welfare system. And But that was when I turned things around, because I didn't want my kids to go through what I had gone through. And that's when I entered a treatment center, and I started to begin my own path to wellness.
Since I've started my journey, I've found my birth mother, my half-brother, and I've started on my own spiritual journey, and I haven't stopped since then.
Sheila and Irene have just begun their journey of healing as mother and daughter.
One big thing that I had to let her know is that she did nothing wrong. She had me when she was 13 years of age, and by giving me up, I mean, she was unable, because of what happened systemically, she wasn't able to take care of me.
Now that I see her, what a beautiful young lady she is. I'm glad the way she turned out. She turned out to be a wonderful person. And not many people get second chances. I'm blessed in that department to get second chance with my kids. And I hope there's other people out there too that get a second chance.
My mom had gone to residential school. She didn't know how to parent, and I found that out later. I held this anger for a long time. She wasn't taught how to love. She was in the same position as I was, right? She wasn't taught how to be a parent. And in the last few years of her life, I did everything I could to, put that relationship back in place and forgive her, because she really had no choice on how things went down for her.
To you, the survivors of the 60's scoop, to your children, to your parents, to the rest of your families, and to your communities. From me, as Premier of Alberta, from all of us here, as the elected representatives of the people of Alberta, and on behalf of the government of Alberta, we are sorry for the loss of families, of stability, of love. We are sorry for the loss of identity, of language and culture. We are sorry for the loneliness, the anger, the confusion, and the frustration. We are sorry for the government practice that left you, Indigenous people, estranged from your families and your communities and your history. We are sorry for this trauma, this pain, this suffering, alienation, and sadness. We are sorry. To all of you, I am sorry.
Hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, hey.
That apology is a once-in-a-lifetime event. It'll never, never, ever happen again. In my lifetime, or my kids' lifetime, or my grandkids. And it was a very, very historic day for the Indigenous people and all Albertans.
For me, it was like a long time coming. Like you sit there and think in the back of your mind growing up that this isn't right. Sorry doesn't really mean anything until you put some action to it.
Simply saying I'm sorry for the 60's scoop isn't by itself is not sufficient. The response has to be commensurate with the trauma that occurred. And we understand that what was really bad about the 60's scoop was all of that grief and suffering and loss. The loss of family, the loss of community, the loss of culture, the loss of language. And so if we do care about all those things, which we do, then we have to work as a government to fix all of those things. So we have to support families, we have to support communities, we have to support culture, we have to support language.
I think that foster parents need more training. It doesn't matter what kind of foster parents. They could be white, black, Native, Asian. It doesn't matter. parents are parents, and the whole parenting thing needs to be addressed. It doesn't matter what kind of home you're in. Just making sure that they're taking care of that child, not physically, but mentally as well. I have a hard time supporting the social services and the foster care system, but I know there are good social workers out there. There's great social workers out there. I know some of them. I've dealt with some of them, and I know there's great foster homes because I've been in some of them. And just, we need more of those.
Because we really believe that if people understand more, they're less likely to be racist, they're less likely to be oppressive, and they're going to think more when they sit down to do a policy, when they sit down to make decisions about their interaction with the Indigenous community.
So we have to find ways to, first of all, acknowledge that non-Indigenous people in Canada have these lenses that prevent us from seeing the full spectrum of strengths within Indigenous communities.
I know that there are a lot of survivors that haven't moved as far as I have in my journey, and they're still out there. They're still wandering the streets. They're still wondering who they are. They're still suffering with addictions because they do not have a sense of identity. They don't have a sense of community. They don't have a sense of family. And I really have a lot of empathy for them. So that's my challenge, is for communities across Canada, is that you have a welcome home ceremony for those survivors in your communities, because we need to bring them home. That's part of our culture as Indigenous people, is welcoming them home.
After I had my daughter, I realized how weak I was, and that she is 10 times stronger than I'll ever be, and that she chose me. So, I have to kind of keep going on, keep moving forward. And, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain from the past, but I think that in order to move forward, it's keeping up that strength and keeping up that fight and moving forward and looking forward to future generations.
Oh yeah.
It's like a cotton
I want to jump on myself.
Asked her what she's gonna do, and she's like, I don't know. I should Google it. She doesn't know what she wants to do. We force ourselves to break the cycle. Like, I broke the cycle with my family. My kids know who I am, their dad. They've never gone a day being hungry, ever. They are spoiled, which is something that is rare. And it's something that I created, and I knew I had to do that when I had my first child, right? I made sure that I did everything I could to be there for them.
May many blessings come forward to them as a family.
It feels like that wound is starting to heal. Starting to feel like a person again, gradually. Feeling like more like a mom.
You'll never know I love you so. You'll always be mommy's little girl. Way-ah-hey-oh. Is that it?
Do you know I love you so, and mommy will never let you go. To the stars and the sky, you'll always be mommy's little girl. Hey, oh.